Hey everybody, the offseason is here in the NHL now, and there is a ton of news that is set to happen over the next couple of weeks, including the NHL expansion draft for the NHL's newest team in the Seattle Kraken. And the Montreal Canadiens are one of the most fascinating teams leading up to the NHL expansion draft for what they should do. So I'm going to look into that in this video and talk about what I believe the Montreal Canadiens should do heading into the expansion draft. Now you can go one of two ways in the expansion draft. You could choose to protect 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie, or you can do 8 skaters and 1 goalie. And the Montreal Canadiens definitely have a decision to make on whether or not they want to protect all of their big four on defense or continue to go the route of 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie. Now, it's very clear that Marc Bergevin has put an emphasis on the Montreal Canadiens back end. He loves that big four that is tough, mean, and hard to play against on the Habs back end. We saw how successful they were in the postseason, and it's clear that Marc Bergevin wants to keep all of these 4 defensemen in Montreal Canadiens uniforms for the foreseeable future. So I find it unlikely that the Kraken will be able to select one of Ben Chiarot, Shea Weber, Jeff Petrie, or Joel Edmondson. But it wouldn't surprise me if Bergevin had to make a little side deal and chooses to protect 7, 3, and 1. There are plenty of forwards that the Montreal Canadiens have available that could be of use to the Seattle Kraken. But from everything that is going on around the NHL right now, it seems that their target appears to be Jake Allen. But Elliot Friedman of Hockey Night in Canada and Sportsnet did report that Jake Allen could be shopped ahead of the expansion draft, and he could be a weapon that the Montreal Canadiens choose to deal ahead of the expansion draft so that they don't lose him for nothing. They might be comfortable losing a forward or a depth piece on the back end like a Cale Fleury in the expansion draft instead of doing that. But it's going to be a very interesting time in Montreal to see which route they ultimately decide to take. See, the issue here up front is that they need to protect more than 4 forwards because there are more than 4 valuable forwards on this Montreal Canadiens team that need to be protected. You look at Brendan Gallagher, Josh Anderson, Tyler Toffoli, Jake Evans, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, even Artturi Lehkonen. That's more than 4 forwards, and the Montreal Canadiens don't want to lose any of these pieces for just nothing. We know that they were shopping Artturi Lehkonen in the past, specifically last season, so it's possible that they could move him ahead of the expansion draft, but I find it more likely that the Montreal Canadiens would shop Jake Allen and choose to sign another backup goalie and play it in a bit of a riskier scenario because we know how important Jake Allen was to the success of the Montreal Canadiens last year. Heck, if Jake Allen didn't play for Montreal last season, there is a very, very good chance that the Habs don't even make the playoffs. With the impact we saw Ben Chiarot and Shea Weber have together in the postseason last year, along with Joel Edmondson and Jeff Petrie, it just feels like there's no way that Marc Bergevin doesn't go into this expansion draft without a plan. But I think it would be wise for him not to make a side deal with Seattle in order for them not to select one of their defensemen. I just think that this Montreal Canadiens team needs to look towards the future on the back end. They have so many bright young defensemen like Jordan Harris, Jaden Struble, Matthias Norlander, all of these young defensemen that are set to come into the lineup, and you already have Alexander Romanov looking to his future with this Montreal Canadiens team. So I do believe that the Montreal Canadiens need to go the 7-3-1 route in his protection list for the expansion draft. Now, we made it this far into the video and we haven't discussed the notion of Seattle potentially selecting Jonathan Drouin from Montreal if they do leave him exposed or they do make a side deal for Drouin to be a member of the Seattle Kraken next year. It's no secret that Jonathan Drouin needs a fresh start. We got some clarity already in the offseason, and it is apparent that Jonathan Drouin is doing much better right now, but a fresh start for this young forward seems like a good idea for both sides. Montreal gets more cap space to deal with this offseason, and Drouin gets a fresh start in Seattle. I think that could be a likely scenario because it's very clear that the Kraken are going to need top 6 forwards and players that can produce in their first few seasons, and Drouin could definitely be a solution for them in that department. That's it for me today from Cook's Corner. Now, I know this video was a bit all over the place, but that's because the Montreal Canadiens have a bunch of different options that could go down with the upcoming expansion draft for the Seattle Kraken. Let me know in the comment section below what you think will happen with the Habs and the expansion draft. I'm very curious to see what transpires over the next couple of weeks. I'm Zach Cook. We'll see you later.